Dr. Tony Lewis, a founder member of the Duckworth-Lewis method, is here in Sri Lanka for the International Statistics Conference 2010, organized by the Applied Statistics Association of Sri Lanka, on the 8th and the 9th of January from 9 a.m. onwards.
Welcome back. We're speaking to Mr. M.M.Zuhair, President's Council. So we were just touching on the issues of corruption, and now moving on to the position of the SLMC and the TNA, Mr. Zuhair. What are your comments on it? They're extending their support to also the opposition. So what can you comment about it?
If you take the SLMC and the TNA, of course they represent, they are from minority communities, but they don't really represent the full segment of the minorities. There are many other political parties representing the minorities. But if you take the SLMC as to why they are supporting the UNP, that's an interesting question. I think Mr. Rauf Hakim, the leader of the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress, has no option. He's probably thinking of his own personal seat and winning the seat, and then he is tied up with only the UNP as a political party without being in a position to bargain, if necessary, with both parties. So when you are only with one party, you have no choice. You have to be with that party, and when it comes to that party, you keep on justifying. Now, when it comes to the UNP, of course, you know that we don't have, the UNP is not contesting, the UNP leader is not contesting, the elephant symbol is not there. The party is really unable to field its leader of the opposition or the leader of the UNP as a candidate. For the very good reason, they have wisely understood the pulse of the people that he will once more lose. He has lost about 20 consecutive elections, so the 21st election he does not want to lose, and probably he thought better have an alternative. But as far as the SLMC is concerned, I am really surprised as to how they could go and support a candidate who is asking for the abolition of the executive presidency. Now, the executive presidency, to be very brief, is an office where the entire country joins hands to elect one national leader. Unlike in the case of the alternative, the Prime Minister under the first past the post system, which is the alternative if you abolish the executive president, the Prime Minister comes from one electoral district in the country. You can take, for example, Mlipitiya. Now, there are less than 1% of minorities in that place. So, you are depriving the voters of Jaffna, the Muslims in the east, the upcountry Tamils, and all others, minorities elsewhere, of electing one national leader. If you give that opportunity only, he and he alone can claim that I am a national leader. A Prime Minister can't make that claim. The Prime Minister is coming from a small area where the percentage of votes is less than 5% of the national voting strength. Now, how can he try to unite this country? How can he bring about amity and understanding? It is difficult. It is impossible, yeah.
Excuse me, Mr. Zuhair, we are connected and there is a call. Yes, hello, you can speak.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Aziz. I have a question for Honorable Mr. Zuhair. I know him to be a man of...
Can you raise your volume? Speak a little bit loud.
Okay, I know Mr. Zuhair. I know he's a man of integrity. He's a PC and very honest and forthright in his views. I have a question to ask him. Regarding the $300 million
purchase. Speak a little louder.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you can. Start the question.
Okay, Mr. Zuhair. Now, regarding that the arms purchase that were recommended by Sarath Fonseca, when he was army commander, I was just wondering whether it could have been that at the end of the war, our armory was completely depleted of arms and ammunition. Definitely ammunition, perhaps arms. And when the Minister of Defence and the rest of the committee, when they refused to expedite that claim or to action the claim, whether they made an audit of the armory, of the complete armory, to find out whether we are in readiness for another war should it happen. because having arms only without ammunition would be foolish. Did they assess the situation, or did they just outright say no, simply because the war was over? Because if they did so, without doing an audit, I think it would have been a little foolish.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, now in fact the voice was not that audible, but if I understood correctly, without an audit you cannot. Of course that is right. But then before the audit itself, if there is credible material available like documents and some other official documents from the government, certainly those could have been placed. Now as far as the purchase of arms and equipments and ammunitions are concerned, there again the opposition candidate has made an allegation that only ammunitions were purchased during this period. All other items were purchased during the previous president's office period. So the question had been asked, if that was so, why could not the army have won it at that time? The actual situation was that throughout this period, lot of not only ammunitions but all other items that are necessary for a successful operation on the war front had been purchased, which are, some of them are also admitted by the former army commander himself in one of the letters which have been tabled in Parliament in answer to that Chinese allegation about purchasing from China, dated 3rd August 2009. He is referring to the purchase of armored personnel carriers. Like similarly, he had also referred to in one of the interviews that about the purchase of MiGs, fighter planes and all that during this period. Lot of ammunitions have been bought, but I really don't want to go into that area because we have come to another important subject about the SLMC and the TNA. So I thank the viewer for that question, but I'm sure we could answer it in greater detail if we had more time. We are just left with a few more minutes. I would like to mention about the TNA. Now, for instance, the opposition candidate has promised that he will go beyond 13th Amendment. Now, can he implement this? This is the question that the Tamil public are asking. From the north and the east, they are asking the question, with the JVP opposing even the 13th Amendment, how could General Sarath Fonseca promise to implement anything more than 13th Amendment? Now, there are, for instance, other issues, like, for instance, the merger of the Northeast. I am told reliably that there is a secret agreement that the opposition candidate and the TNA has entered into. Don't be surprised about secret agreements. The United National Party has a history of entering into secret agreements. I can give you, Mr. Sambandhan himself used to mention that after the Northeast merger under the Indo-Sri Lanka Accord, that former President Mr. J.R. Jayawardena told him that they will not implement the referendum. It will be just postponed. And as you know, the fact was it was postponed until the Supreme Court decided and demerged. Never was the referendum held to find out the will of the people of the eastern province whether they wish to merge with the north. Now, even former minister Mr. Tondaman, Samyamurthy Tondaman, he said after the 1983 riots, he came out, he was so angry with the riots, that was also during the time of the UNP, he mentioned in Parliament that there was a secret agreement between Mr. J.R. Jayawardena, the then President, and the TULF after the Watukote resolution of 1976 and before the general election that came in 1977. Now, I don't want to go into all those details, but they have a history of entering into secret agreements. Now, this secret agreement is that the Northeast should be merged. Now, by merging the Northeast, the East will become a very weak entity. I am sure the Tamils of the East, as well as the Muslims of the East, are totally opposed to merger of the North and East.